Over the long haul, it's always the superior product that comes out on top. If you believe that our proposal is the best, then you should invest in it.
Welcome everyone to Actually, the podcast that discusses change that seems to arrive slowly and then suddenly sweeps us away. Today, I find myself immersed in my continuing professional development course, through which I am striving to understand more about the various aspects of the work that I am currently doing. Welcome to CEO Insights. Today, I am truly honored to have in front of me a person who, in the world of entrepreneurship and technology, has truly made a significant impact. Not exactly as a fresh new graduate, he has decided to throw himself completely into the whole world of artificial intelligence, starting from right here in Europe, with a goal that is, shall we say, quite ambitious, to become a truly global player in the field of decision intelligence. I am truly happy to welcome here on Actually Podcast, Francesco Rosi, founder of Natzka. Welcome, Francesco.
Thank you very much indeed, Riccardo. It is a real pleasure to be here with you today. And yes, it is a fantastic opportunity to give much more visibility to all of the things that I have been quietly working on it for a number of years now. And it is perfectly consistent with the title of your podcast. So we truly hope to bring about this change in the near future. The change should be arriving shortly.
My first question for you is why you've decided to establish a company, specifically one that involves your own personal investment in the field of artificial intelligence.
I have been hearing that you, within the realms of entrepreneurship, modern technology and the startup scene, have managed to achieve a great deal of personal satisfaction and very significant success.
As we were saying before, you weren't exactly just out of university.
Potentially one could enjoy the countryside, sailing the mountains, but instead you decided to throw yourself into one of the most competitive sectors. Well, in the entire world, most probably, and in which specifically I feel that I really must say, well, there are a whole series of different entities that possess some truly massive competitive advantages compared to all of the others. What prompted you to launch a company like Natzka?
To put it in just a single word, passion. When you are driven by a deep sense of passion, you don't always look at the concrete elements, the specific factors you really should be taking into account when you are making decisions. There are two concepts I'd like to describe. I might use some English words here, but they are called the circle and the bridge. Now, I would really like to describe the circle to you in more detail because it is precisely the central point of the development, the underlying conjecture. I really like using the specific term conjecture because then someone more practical comes along, turns it into a theorem and proves it. As for me, I am perfectly happy to stay at the level of conjecture. Well, I'll tell you what I mean. I'll just lay out the whole situation, the entire circle right now. The circle is this, the data comes in and the data is always there. Today, the data is... The overall availability of these resources has grown at an incredibly exponential rate in recent times. Then we definitely require some sophisticated interpretive models in order to make effective use of all of them. When you have this interpretation, you then pass it on to the decision-making process where decisions are made by carefully limiting the risk. And those decisions, they change your situation again because they generate new data. So now I'll get to the point. This is the circle. And what is the bridge? The connection is that when the data, as you were saying, are internal and external, especially now. And so the combination of these two things is something that has been largely overlooked. The combination of these two distinct elements, internal data and external data, let me share a memory that I can certainly afford at my age. I once served as a consultant for Unilever. At that time, there was a certain character who, for me, was a real master. I was truly intimidated by this person. He was the head of marketing for Unilever at that particular time, and he would combine Nielsen data, which were essentially exogenous data points, with the ex-factory data and all of their internal data records. I think if someone from Unilever who was there, these terms are extremely well known inside. And we developed a specialized software application to effectively combine these two distinct types of information, external data and internal data. It was another truly wonderful opportunity that I had to gain this experience. So the bridge is, the connection point is there between internal and external data. Let's now move on to the aspect of interpretive models. This is the beauty of it. Because you're dealing with deterministic and probabilistic data. This is a fundamental key to everything we're discussing. What comes to you from deep inside the company is largely deterministic. It's like the data, the fundamental data. The probabilistic ones are instead those where you try to combine what
artificial intelligence or even forecasting systems and prescriptive intelligence systems, they can provide you with valuable information. But it's important to remember that their outputs are always probabilistic.
I like to engage with those who have probabilistic expertise because I am a determinist again. So basically, in this field, you always need to find the right people who can guide you properly and accept your own limits. There's always the risk of the black box. The black box is a bit of a danger that because it might not be accepted by the time manager, there is a delicate aspect to consider when dealing with that situation.
Could you explain the black box concept better in this case?
Because the system said it, the computer said it, but if you do not provide me with what is known as the data lineage, meaning how exactly did you, the computer, arrive at telling me all these things, what kind of certainty can I possibly have? Well, here there's an element of credibility regarding what you receive in probabilistic terms from the computer, and therefore the degree to which you can truly trust what the computer, the system, is telling you. At this point, there are artificial intelligence logics that, there are thousands of them. I personally like fuzzy logics. I have my own personal bias on that front.
What I mean to say, essentially, is that there can be either I'm going to give you a concrete example.
Go on.
Is one of the insights that have emerged and have led me here, because you must capture the strong signals, the weak signals from users, from their needs. Many, many years ago, we were presented with a company, Capgemini.
Certainly. It was a consulting company.
And he said, we've seen that you're quite capable of performing analysis and planning. We have a bit of a problem. We have 16,000 people working for us. Bear with me, it has been many years since then. So approximately, we have 16,000 people working with us. We have a long and rich history, a very long and rich history. This is a vital point to make, a history of many successful projects we have done.
Considering all their specific characteristics over a period of several years, we then receive an official RFI, which essentially means a formal request for
a project, and we don't know if we have ever undertaken something like this before, what kind of skills were involved, what mistakes were made, and what the final outcome was. So could you please help us to find, within our immense availability of internal data, something that closely resembles what is being requested from us? This whole question of similarity is a fundamental principle, a key concept of fuzzy logics. So at the time we had to tell them, no, I'm sorry, no, you can't. But this kept me pushing forward, striving to go beyond. In any case, our software was eventually acquired, but I was still left with a lingering sense of frustration for not having, and I had already consulted with the Dalle Institute to research that matter. So we had really taken the matter seriously. We simply couldn't, within a reasonable time frame, at least. It wasn't something where a new line of research could be opened, but that's not what we were asked for. But it has remained as a kind of deep-seated frustration. This aspect of the concept of similarity has become a truly fundamental element throughout every single part of the research that we have undertaken.
About similarity. Could you explain the concept of similarity further, which seems to be the real challenge, it seems to me?
It is very simple to understand. The concept of similarity, technically its proper name is actually similarity in English. It's the distance of either 0 or 1 from a situation that here I can really enjoy myself. I let myself go.
Certainly you are at home here.
Let's turn our attention back to Capgemini, who had that comprehensive list of situations they had already successfully addressed. Another where you've already defined what the characteristics are that you wanted, that you need to search for. This one you really must communicate to the system. I'm telling you that today this is possible, and the system says, yes, I've found this distance 0.7. It means it doesn't quite resemble the case you were looking for.
A past case that has a distance of 0.7 compared to the case I'm trying to solve today.
Exactly. A zero distance is precisely the same. So then at this point, the 0.7, are you making use of it? I'm not sure. I really don't believe so. At this point, I like to talk about two specific concepts that truly distinguish our approach from the one that is commonly accepted today. One of them is referred to as human in the loop, and the other human in control. Human in the loop, so these are in fact English technical terms or jargon, because as it often happens, the English tend to be the ones who set the rules of the game. Human in the loop is when, for example, supervised systems where there's still a contribution of local expertise. Well, in every single one of the different learning processes, then that right there is, or alternatively within the entire decision-making process. Different, even stronger is the expression human in control, where then I'd like to discuss augmented intelligence and compare it with artificial intelligence. Actually, I'll immediately present the core concept. Augmented intelligence is when the human remains in control while artificial intelligence is utilised as a form of suggestion or an opinion.
Have you heard the news about Palantir and Snowflake partnership?
This is absolutely fantastic. This one right here. Honestly, when I first heard the news, I was just like, wow, incredible. It is the major new strategic partnership that has been formed between Palantir and Snowflake.
Okay. Why did it affect you so greatly?
So let's get back to, we haven't quite closed the loop on this yet, have we? So let's return to the circle, data, internal and external, and then the interpretive models. The data, Snowflake is extremely strong. Interpretation models, Palantir is incredibly strong altogether. Because for me, it was a joy to see this news. I said, wow, you know why? For two reasons. One, because Natzka handles both aspects and there's no real break in continuity between them. When you deploy an implementation, a structure into the cloud environment, for data management systems such as platforms like Snowflake or Amazon's Redshift and Google's BigQuery, all of which are built upon the same underlying core technology. And then you have a Palantir that needs to make use of this, and there are many Palantir claims that we fully agree with. But you have two distinct objects that absolutely need to communicate, and not just a small amount. We're talking about a truly enormous quantity of data, because we are also moving into big data territory. For me, the whole vision was big data and artificial intelligence. Today, we're here with both. And the advantage for us is that there's no separate bandwidth between the two worlds, because it's all one, it's all there, and allow us to be very fast.
Altogether.
And could I ask you to consider this from the perspective of a company, whether it is a small, medium, or a very large one? Concretely, what can a manager truly gain from this combination of multiple data sources, models of analytic interpretation and decision intelligence? All in this unique solution, Natzka, that you are beginning to offer today. What's the typical challenge for a manager today? What can you take away from this decision intelligence model that you are introducing to the market today, and also what these small-scale industry players like Palantir and Snowflake are just now beginning to offer these types of specialized solutions? So let's try to explain a little bit about a practical example of how a typical Natzka client can successfully implement as a solution.
I'm very happy with this question. Yes, I need to close the loop then. It's the third step, which is about the decision-making processes. This is why we must return to the very origins where the human sciences and all our cognitive processes become an essential part of the decision-making process. And that was the rather unique and distinctive part of the original method, where the various individuals had very different perspectives and opinions. Human in control, human in the loop, it means means the person's mind is always present, it's never replaced, it's them. And the ways people think are quite varied. The problem-solving methods and the leadership approaches are quite distinct, but also the decision-making styles are very different. And I've seen this through many experiences throughout my entire career. So reaching this stage, the third inner step of the circle involves your very own internal decision-making processes. Consequently, you end up with an absolutely impressive amount of information and data. All interpretive models, the reliable, trustable, deterministic ones, those with varying degrees of reliability, probabilistic, fantastic. You know how to measure, you know how much to trust or not. This is crucial, and ultimately you integrate all of this into a decision-making process. Whenever we're talking about decision intelligence, what we are really discussing is the capacity of a system to replicate and to model an entire decision-making process. That can be of any possible type. It could be something that is fundamentally human, or it might even be something that is automated. So you could then introduce agents into the system, if we want to use a more contemporary term. We used to call them sensors. Today they're called agents. Well, it's okay, damn it. But oh, well, we adapt. What you essentially have here are these that I'm going to continue to call sensors that were able to interpret different situations. In practice, when you have modelled a decision-making process, that can be a budget process, it is something quite classic, but it is also something very specific indeed. The launch of a special promotional campaign or a discount offer, the launch of a brand new product or a new assortment planning, all of these elements are certainly part of the various different types of decisions which have an incredibly vast scope. It's possible that the CEO who successfully built a career encountered many situations and ultimately rose to become the CEO. And at that point, he starts having problems. Then Trump's tariffs arrive and he says, now will we build a factory in America? Or rather also think about a completely different situation where we are managing a hospitality business or even a large international chain of hotels that has many locations across the globe. And we're seeing that that particular type of room, that is a suite, is not being booked as we wish. At this point, I would really need to adjust the pricing for that specific period and for that particular room. Imagine the CAO for sure here would tell something like, no guys, don't make me look into each room's price about Trump and the new facility, yes, but at that point, he gives Natzka a call because he wants to solve the problem. The business logics and the rules of the game are clearly defined, and the model then becomes an entirely automatic process with two outputs, essentially, one for feedback and one for feed forward. One proactive measure and one that is informative. So both of these things come into play. The manager is informed about situations, but these are then delegated to the system. We're talking about two completely different extremes.
We are discussing a delegation of decision-making. So we're left with this dilemma concerning the determination of the price or the market placement of the room at a price X instead of a price Y. This function is delegated directly to the Natzka platform. And this then places it back into the hands of the decision maker who at that point confirms the decision. How does it actually function in this particular case?
Right then, let's keep our focus on the conversation about the room. At that point, there can be two types of behaviour on the part of the system. One of them is because it has been entirely delegated to manage the process, or that is to say, from all these situations, I use the word situation, I would feel like using it continuously. They are situations that change, and every single situation, every last element, as they say, the only constant is change. Yes, exactly. It's just like that. At that point, there can be two possible exits from the system, one being an automatic action and the other an informational action, either both of them or just one of the two. This is the moment when, if the system is there, silently monitoring all of the events that are taking place, at the precise moment when some brand new data comes in, it then reacts. This was the new paradigm. The system informs you. You're not the one who goes to ask. There are both those things at the same time. Do you have a question? Ask the system, but also the systems informs you if something happens. Exactly. When we are talking about decision intelligence, I expect that Palantir will be right there, standing strong with very broad shoulders to carry the weight. And we might even find it quite difficult to get into that championship, but we are really enjoying ourselves, so we are truly looking forward to the challenge. So, in effect, at this point, I'll allow myself to close the loop. At this juncture, these decisions, whether made by human beings or by the system itself, or by a combination of the two, come back to enrich the data. What does it mean he has to come back now? Within the overall context of the data. Now, when I said I was happy about this, is the agreement between Snowflake and Palantir. It's because all of this unfolds in real life, in actual real life. It all starts with data management, then with tools such as Snowflake and many others, all of which are fundamentally based on a theory by a certain Michael Stonebreaker from 20 years ago. Everything is interpreted by Palantir, and then what exactly happens? It is not possible for systems that are equipped with that particular technology to receive the data back. So not only are these two things that need to communicate with each other, but everything that happens, something appalling happens to me, it all ends up on Excel.
It's all in Excel. That's exactly where I wanted you. On the curse of so many companies, I must say, even in the face of this technological revolution that everyone talks so much about, I keep on going around, always like a truffle dog. I meet with dozens of managers, day in and day out, and I always say to them, but okay, no, we're quite advanced with AI adoption, and I say, well, wonderful. What are you doing? No, we're doing this and that, I say. But the business architecture, it continues to run on Excel anyway, of individuals who truly came out of that hands-on manual grind, I'd say, because Excel is fine, but even with formulas that can be optimized and so on, it's never truly that. In its own way, compared to the promise we have today of artificial intelligence, Excel is a piece of antiquity that just stays right there, but it remains there so incredibly powerful, and there is absolutely no way at all to ever get away from it. To uncouple the economic model of 80% of the companies today from all of that stuff and from that particular type of know-how. At this moment, I don't see a mass revolution underway, nor do I see mass evolution, and I believe that AI will truly be a revolution for modern capitalism. The real, undeniable proof will be when we see a significant reduction in the use of Excel. In companies, that, I think, will be the real test of a business revolution.
We can conclude the meeting here. Everything is over now, but that's just how it is. We made a very serious mistake previously when we declared war on Excel, a strategic blunder.
It's too much, and then there's an excessive amount of culture tied to it.
Exactly. That is why even transferring models that might have cost a great deal of blood and sweat to those who had created them, that was simply the right thing that had to be done. So we must recover some of the existing know-how, and this is something we have clearly understood.
This is interesting, and I'd really like to emphasize this specific point that you're making, imposing a technological change. With regard to people, human beings, or to communities that, to get to where they are today, they went through incredible difficulties. It's one of the most difficult missions ever because there's a devastating degree of conservatism in those situations, and the change is too violent, and so you pay the price.
It's a pleasure. It's a real pleasure to talk about these topics because you've interpreted it in an absolutely correct way. That's exactly right. And so it is something that possesses a truly horrible sense of stillness and a complete lack of any kind of movement at all. Because the very moment that you arrive and find yourself in a dead end, you've reached the end of the line, it's completely over, you just consume it, you wear it out in that specific manner though. When I say, I wanted to convey a rather powerful image of this entire situation. Any decision will always bring about new data, and this new data will always imply a brand new situation. The new situation, when I say the only constant is change, means that you absolutely must react immediately. You cannot simply wait for the entire process to naturally unfold. Therefore, the ability to act with speed is absolutely paramount. It is my anxiety. It's absolutely fundamental. And within speed, you're going to find simplicity. The problem is that a system that is not simple cannot be particularly fast. All right, then I'll delve into one of the most fundamental episodes in the development in 1994. We had quite a significant challenge, a real competition against IBM, and there were only two of us involved in that project, myself and a former intern. No, we were a bit more. We were already 5 or 6, and we found ourselves confronted with metaphor. Now, nobody remembers what metaphor is. Metaphor had been a significant entity. It's a decision support system, so here we are. It was acquired by IBM, and one of the vice presidents was none other than the legendary Ralph Kimball. Ralph Kimball is he is widely recognized as the second father of data warehousing. Our objective is to eliminate data warehouses. So we're taking a radical, no-holds-barred approach. This whole thing has to go. Don Valentine of Sequoia Capital, past is wrong.
It's so beautiful.
Again, oh, how beautiful, how beautiful, how beautiful. So we're going in head on, we're whatever it takes, as someone once said. So when you ask me what the difference is with a real startup, that's exactly it. We are determined, you can hear it in my voice, that we are heading in that direction. So essentially what had happened that day, that time, we had to bring our computers, our own laptop to London because the entire metaphor system, I must say, was for Johnson & Johnson. And in the end, they chose us because they had these many computers. They simply couldn't move them, you see. So we went there. Now, with a colleague of mine, very well done indeed, he most certainly recognises himself within the context of this entire speech, and I would like to express my sincere gratitude to him. And essentially, the decision maker called me to say, well, Francesco, I have to make my decision now. If I choose IBM and something goes wrong, the fault is IBM's. But if I choose you and something goes wrong, the fault is entirely mine. Back then, I wasn't very good at making impactful statements, but an impactful statement came to me and I said, but in the long run, the best product wins. If you think we are making the best proposal, then you should invest in that. So I asked, but why did you choose us? Because your software proved to be faster and much easier to use. These two values are incredibly important to us, which in the end is all about speed. Yes, speed again.
Today, you're in 2025, and the big ones are bigger. The big ones are bigger. They're even bigger than they were before.
Thank you. That's truly fantastic. So,
what makes you believe you can possibly succeed against those giants? That sometimes one says, I'll just give up and open a farm stay in Umbria, and maybe then I'll have a competitive advantage.
So I will ask it then. This question is absolutely perfect for our situation. Think about the case of Netflix versus, what was the name of that company again? Blockbuster. Then the case of Kodak with the advent of digital photography. And finally, there is the case of Nokia. I'll tell you a phrase I like. They don't hear us coming. Now back to this. Sorry if I read it.
Give it a read.
Sun Tzu, The Art of War. This is the version, the mean version of your podcast.
Let your plans be as dark and as impenetrable as the deepest night, and when you finally make your move, strike like a thunderbolt upon the field of battle. It does not resemble your own way of doing things. That is exactly right. Exactly right.
So at this point, let's discuss the Netflix situation. Here we had a scenario where someone completely underestimated the newcomer, that is those who are just coming in, and David and Goliath. David was incredibly resourceful. He invented the slingshot, otherwise Goliath would have surely massacred him. All right, we are David, and we are the ones who possess the slingshot.
That's absolutely wonderful, truly wonderful. Thank you so very much. Francesco Rosi, founder of Natzka, and all the very best to you. We are always on the side of those with the slingshot in hand. I really want to thank you for this incredible journey that you have taken us on through the world of artificial intelligence, into the world of the decision-making you did before and now, and the whole decision intelligence effort you're boldly carrying forward so courageously with Natzka. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Riccardo.